When you took over Baker Brothers, Jimmie, what was your mindset initially? Like, what were you thinking? What were your hopes, your aspirations?
I literally thought I would be at Baker Brothers for 2 years and then move on with my career. I went to work a little different that next day. I was turning lights off and saying, hey guys, like, we got to grow the business.
We all know that leadership is a lonely spot. And I think having someone to share your troubles with, because no matter what problem I ran into, when I called Jimmie, Jimmie would go, hey, I had the same problem, or I know somebody that had the same problem. I can give you the answers.
If we're all better, then we all make more. We all do better. If we're in competition, but I think if we get everybody up to a level of expertise and excellence, the more we do that, the better we all are.
Welcome to the $100 Million Mindset, the source for business owners who aspire to scale, grow, and reach their full potential. Whether you're aiming for 5 million, 10 million, or 100 million. Your hosts are Alan O'Neill, the Irish plumber, who scaled Abacus Plumbing and Cooling to over 100 million, and Too Tall Todd Liles, a coach to high-performing business leaders and the owner of Service Excellence, are going to help you think bigger, act smarter, and take your business to the next level.
Jimmie Dale is the CEO, president of Baker Brothers, a home service powerhouse in Dallas, Texas. And under his leadership, Baker Brothers has evolved from a family-run plumbing business into a multi-service industry leader in plumbing, HVAC, and electrical. Now, Jimmie has played a key role in scaling the company to over 100 million while maintaining strong values, a customer-first approach, and a focus on team development.
Beyond business, Jimmie is deeply involved in faith-based philanthropy, building wells in Africa, and mentoring the next generation of trades professionals. He's also part of the Wrench Group, a national organization that unites top home service companies for growth, innovation, and operational excellence.
So, Jimmie, welcome. Thank you so much for being on the show. We really appreciate you.
Oh, no problem. Love to be here. Thanks.
Hey, it's awesome to have you. So I know that I had a chance at one point in time to help participate in those wells in Africa, and it's awesome to see you do all of those beautiful things. But before we go into that, I want to talk a little bit about the early journey of you over at Baker Brothers, because I know that you never thought in a million years that you would ever run a company the size that it is today, but you have. You stepped into leadership and you've developed this into much more than just a plumbing business. So when you took over Baker Brothers, Jimmie, what was your mindset initially? Like, what were you thinking? What were your hopes, your aspirations? So tell us a little bit about that part of your life.
Well, I guess when I started working at Baker Brothers, it was just kind of this family obligation that I got through college, and I was doing Dad's books, and he was like, "Hey, I want you to come work for me in '93 for $26,000." I go, "Dad, you can't afford to pay me $26,000." He goes, "I give you $350,000 of sales. You're pulling down 100." I go, "You don't have 26 to give me," and he goes, "Well, let me worry about that." So I literally thought I would be at Baker Brothers for 2 years and then move on with my career. But I'd been involved my whole life in one way or another, as early as third grade, going on a truck. So yeah, getting started, I thought, man, this is going to be a short time thing 30 something years ago. Then 2008 is when I took over with Dad and bought him out, and we had just started home services probably about 2003. And yeah, it was really different. And I think one of the things is like that transition from, the family transition of succession. A lot of people make a mistake, and I think they try to like get the kid to pay them off, like, hey, we'll self-finance this. And what happened though is I went and said, "Dad, look, you can go get this money from a PE group. I'm going to go get the money, and I'm going to be responsible. You've been doing this." He had been at that time 38 years in the business. I said, "I don't want every decision I make to determine your 38-year retirement. You should get your retirement in your hand." And I tell everybody that has a succession plan with their kids or whoever in the family, I said, man, make them in for as much as they possibly can, have skin in the game, because I was very diligent at work. man, I could sign a check from the day I started there, any check in the business. But I'll tell you, when I signed that piece of paper and I owed on a $6 million business or just under six, I owed about $28,000 more cash flow out the door. I went to work a little different that next day. I was turning lights off and saying, hey guys, I was trying to grow the business as fast as I could. Look, man, we got to make that 26,000 a small payment as a percentage of sales. And I mean, just really pushed. But I think we had a huge growth that first year. We grew like 38% the first year. And it wasn't because dad got out of the way or something. It was really that dad and I had the same goal. We were both we wanted to go this way. We were
Mhm.
going north. He decided, hey, I'm older and I want to flatten out, because he goes, man, it started, for him, it felt risky. And so when we kind of separated, that was when we knew, hey, it's time to the partnership. It's time to do something with P Group or somebody. And that's kind of what happened. He got an offer from PE Group. I went, got the loan from the bank, signed over my life, and said, okay, let's go. And so, yeah, the first initial thought was, holy crap, oh gosh. And then it was like, we got to grow the business. Hey, we've got to, make, like I said, try to get as many guys as we can. And the recession was right there. I mean, it's
Yeah.
2008. That was right up against, I couldn't have got that deal done. They said 2 weeks later, we would not have closed with the bank. So
Wow.
literally the good part about the recession was this: there were more technicians available from new construction and other places than ever before. So that's one of the reasons why just being able to hire the guys was what helped us with the growth.
You know what's interesting about that, Alan, is that there's been so many times when we've been consulting with family businesses and the son wants to buy the business,
Yeah.
but doesn't want to buy the business. The son wants parents to give them the business.
Right.
And as the advisor, my job is to take care of what's best for the company. And I know what's best for the company is what Jimmie said. Someone needs to have skin in the game.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, Jimmie, I just want to say to you, that's actually really commendable in the way that you think, because that's not the way most sons and daughters would think. They would want it to be handed to them and not actually be fully responsible for the value of the business. That's pretty cool.
Well, I remember,
What?
Jimmie, and I wonder
Yep.
if you remember, there was a PSI summit in Dallas. I think it was actually when your laptop was stolen out of the car, if you remember. And you and
Yeah,
I were sitting in the bar late one night, and I was buying my partner out at Abacus, and you were buying your dad out. It must have been around 2007, 2008. And we were both kind of terrified, but very determined, and similar outcomes at the end of the day. So what do you think, Jimmie, was the biggest turning point that changed the trajectory of Baker Brothers? Like, was it the takeover from your dad, or was it something post the takeover? What do you think was the biggest turning point?
I think pre-takeover, one of the things, like a couple of things, one was advertising. Things had changed. The wind had changed. It was all, basically yellow pages. And you would go to consultants and they go, hey, don't waste your time putting radio ads and TV ads and billboards. They'll call you when they need you. And so I kind of was like, man, I was just always involved in marketing, loved marketing. And I just said, man, Business 101 says we need to brand our business, that we need to create a brand and get the brand in front of everybody. And I saw a local company, it was called Dalworth Carpet Cleaning here locally, and they're carpet cleaners. And man, they were branded all over the place. And I go, well, if the carpet cleaning company can do it, why can't a plumber do it? And so we started doing some stuff on the radio. And then the big mistake a lot of people make is they jump into something way more over their head, right? Even back in the yellow page, they get a double truck ad and they don't have a big enough company to handle what they could even do with a double truck back in the day. Same thing, guys jump into doing all networks on TV is like, that's nuts. You got to just kind of like own a little bit and kind of grow and grow and grow. And that production media type, like where we got out, I call it two different marketings. One's production, where you make something and you push it in front of the customer, whether it's an ad, a mail, or whatever. And then there's also referral, reference media, where I'm basically going, hey, I got to go find your number somewhere, yellow pages, online, website, whatever. So those two types of medias work together to create it. And I think that's what to basically has created the chasm where there's not very many mid-sized companies now. It's a bunch of $80+ million companies, and it's a bunch of little mom and pop shops doing, grassroots referral and community based stuff. So that's created this chasm in our industry that's kind of the evolution. There's never very few $50 million companies, even 7 or 8 years ago, much less now. There's one in every market. So I think a big part of it was the advertising. The second part, I'd say, was what Alan and I were just talking about, what he just talked about, us at that bar. And Alan, I think we were drinking because we were probably trying to drink our sorrows away and,
That
and
may
lower
be
our
true,
blood
Jimmie.
pressure.
That may be true.
But I think the other part was those groups like that, that was SGI. In fact, that's where I met Todd, was when it was SGI. Now it's called Certain Path, but like SGI, Nexstar, those groups have created the business model, because there's always a technician coming in and now becoming a business owner, need to learn how to do the business. They taught us how to do the business. And so what was funny is, but also talking to Alan, where I could call him anytime I wanted and say, "Hey man, I got this problem," or "Hey, are you running into this?" Those relationships with owners that are all over the country, I think helped me as much as anything. My relationship with Gus Santos at Milestone Electric, it was the Milestone Electric at the time, and I was a plumber, and we were great. And then now we're in competition because I do everything and he does everything. But we still cherish that. It's funny, we still cherish that friendship and how we've helped each other grow. And it's really weird for people to go, y'all are in the same market, y'all are top two competitors, and y'all are friends. That is like insane crazy. Like, that doesn't happen in our industry. But I think the more that we stop considering our competition evil, and the more, it's like the old Japanese, what is it? Their methodology of, if we're all better, like then we all make more. We all do better if we're in competition. But I think if we get everybody up to a level of expertise and excellence, the more we do that, the better we all are. And I've really been a proponent of my other thing that I've always wanted for the plumbing industry, especially. Everybody pictured a guy with a butt crack, Bubba teeth, and overalls, and whatever. And I go, I want to change that to where it's professional. Like, people go, man, I'm glad that guy came to my house, instead of, can I get this guy that smells like smoke and alcohol out of my house? Like, that was the difference. I wanted to make it a professional, and I think we've all done that. If you don't wear shoe covers in someone's home today, you might get a 1-star review because everyone wears them. Even the cable guys now wear them, the direct TV guys. So that's kind of, for me, I think the main things were like the advertising changed. It was about the owners, the fellow owners, that we all could learn off each other and share information. Remember the old PHCC thing? We're all from the same market, and we'd all sit at lunch and not talk to each other, or lie to each other, like, yeah.
Well, Jimmie, I want to reiterate what you said there. Like, I always found going to PSI or SGI and Nexstar and places like that the information you got from the stage was valuable. But what was more valuable was the relationships you built, and being able to call yourself Jimmie in Dallas, or, Paul Kelly in Phoenix, or whoever it might be. But being able to pick the brain of other people. And we all know that leadership is a lonely spot.
Mm.
And I think having someone to share your troubles with, because no matter what problem I ran into, when I called Jimmie, Jimmie would go, "Hey, I had the same problem," or "I know somebody that had the same problem. I can give you the answer." So I think that's really a great point, Jimmie. So, Jimmie, when you scaled from plumbing into HVAC and electrical, what do you think were the toughest lessons in those transitions?
Well, the funniest thing is, I think that same bar time that we were talking about going in AC,
Uh-huh.
you and I both. And I remember this is what Alan said. He goes, "Hey, when I master plumbing, then I'll move over to AC." And I go, "Alan, I don't know if we'll ever master plumbing." I go, "I don't feel like I ever have it under control." And he goes, "Yeah, that's true." And when you're growing like that, it's hard to ever feel like you're under control. But I'll be honest, I think it's the fastest way to take advantage of, you have a current group of people that love using you, and especially in plumbing. It is the best thing, is to open up another service, is just so welcomed by the people that are your current customers. And it's just so I won't say it's easy, but I think the biggest challenge is finding the right person to run that department, because you're not the expert in HV. I was not the expert. I knew enough to be dangerous, but I was not the expert. The other thing too is I studied up on the model. It was a very different model, plumbing to AC. Everybody I knew that was a plumber, they hated it for 18 months, and then after that, they thought it was the best thing they'd ever done. Now, I will say the AC guys moving to plumbing, it is really hard for them. If you're an AC guy right now listening to this, and you're like, I'm thinking about moving to plumbing, you need to understand it is a completely different animal. Don't think you're going to go do all your maintenance agreements and make a bunch of money, because plumbers don't sell anything. Like, in fact, if two things are broken, it's hard to get them to fix the second thing at the same trip. So they are different. That was another one. I thought everyone's the same. They're not different. Completely different animals, an AC tech and a plumbing tech. As far as training, Todd, you probably know this, training guys. Plumbers are very skeptical. Alan and myself both grew up in plumbing. Dude, we're skeptical people. You ask us, like, you don't know about that. You got to prove it to me. Show me first. I tell the guys all the time, I train the plumbers. In fact, that's why I want to talk to Alan so bad at the PSI event, because Alan was training, had this training system. His guys were doing really good. I was like, man, what are you doing that is like getting these guys to learn? These were the guys at the principal's office lined up outside. They weren't in the school teaching. They didn't like school. They didn't want any part of it. I go, how did you do it? And he goes, well, I get about 5% better. And I think what I found out, what Alan did is he just marked his price up, so they had no choice. But I basically, at the end of the day, got the AC guys, and I trained them. And it was funny. I tell people all the time, I said, I can tell the plumbing guys about a new tankless water heater for 5 years, and they'll finally put one in and go, you know what? That tankless was amazing, Jimmie, man. Thank you for telling me about that 5 years ago. And I can tell the AC guys, hey, we have these new pins. Now, I know it has nothing to do with what you're doing, but I bought 2 truckloads and they're in the back. And I think our customers will love these pins. Could you offer it to them for $10 a pin? They'll sell all the pins by the end of the week. And if you give them a spiff or you give them like a contest, oh my gosh, they'll sell it even faster. So it is a funny differential. So you have to be aware of the nuances of not only just the guys, but also the models, and understand that there's not a lot of loss leaders in plumbing and electrical. There's a lot of loss leaders in HVAC. We don't do $59 tune-ups in plumbing. That you can, and people do it, but no one wants the tune-up. The customers don't want the tune-up. And then the other part is you got to get some really good sales guys in there to sell the customer on extra work. And that's kind of against the way they're wired. It's like taking a bunch of accountants and trying to get them to sell something.
Mm.
I don't know what it is, and maybe I'll have a different opinion about that, but I know that's been my fight.
Jimmie, did you, just a quick follow-up question. I can tell you the first year we were in HVAC, I felt like a little bit out of control. Like, I didn't think the quality was the same as we had in plumbing, but I didn't know enough to challenge the level of quality we were producing. But I was noticing more complaints than we ever had in plumbing. And I actually remember going to Colin and saying, look, I want to shut this HVAC thing down because it's driving me crazy. And Todd alluded to it earlier, or maybe it was you, Jimmie, you said, you've got to find the right guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to find a guy in the leadership position that you really trust, that's going to care as much about the product you're selling to the customer as we previously did in plumbing. Did you get that feeling that first year, Jimmie, that it was a little bit out of control?
We struggle with quality for sure, and I think there were a lot of different reasons. There were more callbacks. Like one, just the thermostat being more complex.
Yes.
Just not the old gold thermostat, but the ones that have touchscreen. I mean, God, the one that we first put out was so terrible. Our CFO, who's one of the smartest people in the building, Kim, Alan knew her. She's one of the smartest people She was over there messing with the thermostat for 10 minutes. And I go, okay, that's one of the callback problems right there. I mean, a person with a master's degree, a CPA, cannot turn up and down the AC. I go, that is a problem. But then we did have those problems too. And I think, one of the things is it's always hard for us to hire people we're not used to hiring. So we're used to hiring plumbers, and we're used to hiring, just call center people and dispatchers. When we had to hire that first accountant, it was pretty rough. Have to hire that first general manager, we usually mess that up pretty bad. And I think we all could tell stories about that for sure. And one of the things that, I really got fortunate with Roger Frazzini, who is the head of our AC department, still is that Roger was almost 50. And I said, are you willing to forget everything you know about AC and learn a whole new model? And he said, yes. And to the point, what was great is I said, man, we need to do better with our quality. And I said, if we're going to offer a premium price, which we're not the highest, but we're not the lowest, I said, then we need to make it to where if you take a picture of that AC unit, I can tell by just being a layperson that it is a better installation than everybody else's. And I will say we have done that to the degree that people have come behind us, like, and went to jobs to do tune-ups and come to work for us because they said, hey, I want to work for a company with that kind of quality. But I did feel that same way, Alan, out of control as far as, man, what my expectation is. I wish we'd have already had like in the service time thing fully implemented where we could take pictures of every job, because now we do. We take a picture before and after of every job and it's in the file, because I could have went through those files and said, okay, guys, we got to start doing some different things. It took us I'd probably say about 2.5 years to get the quality right, just to get it to where I felt comfortable. It was probably about 2.5 years. So I agree. I think, one of the biggest is it's going to be hard to hire that person. And then your quality. Also how we pay, because in plumbing, man, we were really hourly driven. And AC, it's actually okay to pay. If you don't pay commission, you may lose. If you try to pay them hourly, then you may not lose some pretty good techs or some pretty good installation guys. So what we did is once we started paying by the job, our quality improved. The installers are doing the jobs faster. It was like, oh, we can't do 2 jobs in one day. It's impossible. And then you go, okay, we're just going to pay you by the job. Oh, and now all of a sudden they're doing 2 installs in one day and they're perfectly immaculate. So,
Jimmie,
something
that you did that, and I'm going a little bit off script here, so to speak, but something you did that really encouraged me to do the same thing was you went outside the industry and hired some key leaders. I'm thinking about Bubba, who has one of the best leadership minds that I can think of. Like, Bubba has an interesting background that I hope you'll share. And then, you went and hired Jeff Cox, who's now president over at Berkey's. And Jeff is probably one of the best operational minds I've come across. So I just wonder what prompted you to do that? Because it wasn't the norm in the industry when you did it, Jimmie, to go outside and hire key leaders. What was the kind of thought process behind that?
Well, I was on a panel the other day about how do you hire guys at that level, and I said, it was not in industry norms at all. But what my idea was like, man, I really want someone who wants to win so bad that if they think they're going to lose, they'll throw up in their mouth a little bit. And I mean, just that mindset of, I want to have someone, I mean, dude, Bubba, so to pass on what he said, Bubba was a youth pastor. But now I'll say this, he was the youth pastor of the largest youth department in the nation. People paid him $5,000 to go speak. And Bubba was that guy that if you played him in something, like, he was going to beat the crap out of you. Like, it could be some new game you just made up, and he would figure out a way to win and beat you, And I had a business coach at the time that was like a Harvard MBA and a Naval Academy grad and, on a nuclear submarine. Basically, that guy told me, that's a really bad idea, Jimmie. Don't ever hire a guy from ministry into the business world. And I said, I didn't take him out. Bubba had just got to a point where he couldn't do that anymore. And so I was like, man, I'm going to throw my name in the hat on this because this guy's a winner and he's brilliant. I said, I'm going to see if he'll come over. And so I did that. And then I told my business coach, I said, I'll tell you this, why don't you interview him and I'll come in behind you after y'all interview. And if you don't think he's the right guy, then dude, I won't hire him. And he went and sat down and talked to Bubba. So I guess another thing, get a second opinion, not just your own. He sat down and talked to him. I came in behind him and he said, hey, if you don't have a big enough vision for this guy, he's going to leave you. So instead of saying, no, don't hire him, which is the initial thought, he was like, that was his thought. Jeff Cox is more of the same, smart guy, like to win. I actually played basketball at Jeff Cox back in the day. We used to go in this early morning basketball game, and man, Jeff wanted to win so bad. And it's just, I think you just have to find people that are that you respect and that you think are brilliant, and then you teach them the actual business. And when Bubba came to work for us out of ministry, I made him go through every training program we had. He onboarded as a plumber. He onboarded as an AC guy. He onboarded as a dispatcher. He onboarded as a call center person. He took calls. He dispatched, for a week. So it took about 6 to 7 months to get him through that whole process. But when he did, he knew the entire business.
Mm.
So he was able to we just as PSI and those groups taught us how to do, a good business, we had to teach them and teach these guys that have these abilities to do what we do. And I think that's what helps you to grow the fastest, is when you can take what you're doing, break it down to someone else and teach them how to do it. And then you can let them go. Because Alan managed those guys too. You don't have to manage them. You just have to tell them what direction you want to go, and they go do it.
Yeah, there's a really tremendous book. You guys have probably read it. But when I read it, it sort of codified what Jimmie is saying, which is who, not how. And the subject of the book is essentially, when you hire the right who, they will figure out the how. We are often too much trying to hire people that know the hows,
Yeah.
and the how is limited. It's a knowledge set. The who will expand their knowledge. So Jimmie, in 2008, your dad had an opportunity to sell to private equity. He didn't do it, but then you did. But you did it with Wrench Group. So tell us about that decision. Why, when it was your turn, did you choose to do that?
So yeah, just looking around and basically all the guys in the industry that I knew, everybody that was $50 million or $60 million, and there was only one person I even knew that was even close to 75. All of them were partnerships. And at a point, there was a part of me that the reason why we grew in the first place was for the people. Like, I really all about the people that worked for us. And it was just at a point I knew next year we were going to be more valuable because our EBITDA was growing every year. I knew that there was more money to be made, like for me individually, like to sell later. But I just knew that we were about 37 million and we were growing. And I go, man, I need to have, some people around me that can help counsel me. And I'll be honest, man, I get really innovative. You can ask Alan about this too, maybe too innovative, but the problem was all those crazy ideas. Our executive team would do whatever I told them, because every time they looked at me like I was crazy, they go, we're just doing this. We do it and it would work. But I knew that we'd run out of steam there, and we were kind of uncharted territory as well. So one of the things I did when I started looking at private equity was I talked to some guys, and I had a friend that I coached football with named Steve Schultz that actually was in an M&A world, but in agriculture. So he worked for a large company, publicly traded. And I said, hey man, he had left that company, and I said, hey, how does this work? And I want to know why would they do this? I don't understand how this all works. So he explained everything. Well, then what happened was he goes, hey Jimmie, I got one of the best guys in Dallas. Let's go to lunch with him. And he's one of the best, and he can tell you what on their side of things they're looking for, and he'll probably give you some good insight. And that was probably one of the best lunches I went to, because what he told me was like, hey, look, I'm looking for a good partner. So see, everyone has this mindset of I'm cashing out and I'm retiring. And that's not really the mindset that you should have. If you're going to do that and you're older, fine, do that. But really, he said, I'm looking for a good partner. And I'll be honest, you should be looking for a good partner too. So in the Wrench story, I call Alan and go, hey, you're a part of this group. And Colin Hathaway at the time, and this was kind of the funny part, I guess, to go back even further. At some point, Alan said he wanted to sell. What was funny is that PSI group that Alan and I got to know each other, how that all transpired was Alan goes, hey, I'm looking to sell. And I went to lunch with Colin and Bill from Berkey's, and I said, dude, you might want to talk to these guys. They seem pretty good. And Alan went to talk to those guys, and then they ended up doing a transaction. And then what was funny is, full circle, I come back to Alan and go, hey, Alan, I'm looking to do a transaction. So I had 3 different companies, and they were one of them. So I basically go back to Alan, and Alan goes, hey, let's meet with these guys. So it was like, Ken Haynes and Paul Kelly and Allen, and just those three guys, they all had 40 plus years experience. And Parker and Son was sitting at, like, I think 60 million. I think Cool Ray was sitting at 65. So they kind of been where I'm trying to get to. And they all had really good profitability at the bottom, like better than mine. And I said, man, look, I actually took, I don't even know if Alan knows this. I took 300 and I think $80,000 less money to go with Wrench Group. And within 8 months, Wrench Group paid me $1 million on a recap. So, and I mean, Wrench Group has been really an amazing machine to sit back and watch because, we went from 37 to 100 million, and we did it at 15.6% EBITDA, which I'm just telling you right now, I don't know that would have happened on its own that fast without my relationships with all those guys and looking at their P&Ls and being able to see how they do things and asking questions. Again, a different form of one of those owner groups. But, just getting somebody that was before me, that had a lot of industry knowledge and that partners I liked, that was key, I think. And I think anybody that's looking to do that, they have to look at the partnership and what the partnership brings. Like, so what did they bring me? They brought me my people with job security, a better way to do this, a way to grow and actually perform on the bottom line, because that's the toughest part. A lot of people can grow, but to perform on the bottom, that's a whole different ballgame.
What do you think, Jimmie, that home service owners misunderstand about private equity and scaling? Like, probably like me, you're in a lot of Facebook groups for owners, and there's a lot of new gurus out there, and some of them are saying private equity is evil, and some of them are saying, be careful who you partner with, and I think you and I have had a great experience with the Wrench Group, but what do you think the general misunderstanding is about private equity, if anything?
I think it's that deal of like, hey, it's like I'm selling my car. I sell my truck. I'm done with the truck.
Right.
I think that's it. They think it's this end game where it's like, hey, I'm going to sell it and then I'm finished with it. There are some groups that do that. They want to buy and get you out. But then there's a lot of the groups that are really looking at it as a partnership. Like, hey, I'm going to buy you. You're going to hold back some money, because the old story was, oh, whatever you hold back, the money that, like, if somebody gives you 10 million and 2 million, they want you to hold in 2 million, like for equity position. They go, just kiss that 2 million by, and they're going to fire everybody that you love. And they're going to do all these things, like tear the company down. And that's not true. Like, most of them want you to keep growing. Most of them want you to consider that $2 million you leave in as a real investment that you're going to get money back. And Alan and I both left money in, and we got money back several times. And so the partnership is the piece. Like, it's like, hey, I'm going to be a partner with you. No, you're going to give me a check. Not, I'm going to get a check and then I'm going to go away. Or, hey, that money that I put in equity share is gone. You need to consider picking the private equity group just like you'd pick a partner in your business, and picking them just like you would buy stock, and you want to figure out, is it worth it to buy this stock? Because if I came to you and said, hey, look, man, Alan, give me a couple $1,000,000, man. We're gonna go out and buy this land. That's not, you're gonna go, well, why are we buying it? And where is it? And what are we gonna put on it? And how are we gonna make money? And that's exactly what you need to be asking these guys. Okay, I'm going to leave this investment in of 2 million real dollars, by the way. That everybody thinks it's fake dollars. It's real money that you're leaving in. You need to go, okay, what are you doing with my investment? How is that going to grow? Explain to me how this happens. And I think that's the important piece of, hey, there are bad private equity groups, just like there's bad partnerships. There's bad private equity groups for sure. So you got to be careful. And there's so many out there now that are owned by so many guys. You probably know a guy that you can call and go, how is it with these guys? Call them individually, and that's the way to do it.
I think you're right, Jimmie. I think the key is to always remember you're a partner. If you are a partner, if you've left money in, always remember you're a partner. Although technically you're an employee now, but you're also a partner in the business. You have real equity in the business. And if you have a leadership team like Bubba and Jeff and people like that and people I've had that want to win, and I think the key is to have them incentivized that they profit when the company grows and turns again. So that's really good stuff, Jimmy.
Jimmie, what was the biggest challenge that you had to face or overcome when it came to how selling your company altered your culture?
Well, I will tell you this. I had a really good trust built up with our entire business, like the guys in the trucks, the helpers, the from top to bottom. I explained exactly how I explained to you guys why we were doing what we're doing, and we only lost two guys in 2 months. With I think we had a couple hundred working there at the time. We lost two guys in 2 months, and that was it. So the idea is like if you're doing it for the right reasons, a lot of people don't want to tell the truth. They want to hide the truth and hey, less information's more. I'm not a believer in that at all. And in fact, I'll make everybody a wrench nervous because I'll just tell everybody what we're supposed to do because I believe that true honesty and being like upfront and just saying, hey guys, you can handle it. If I explain it to you the right way, then you hear my narrative. And as long as I keep making my narrative true and I live out my narrative, then guess what? You're going to be like, okay, Jimmie told me this, it's going to happen. And it's really simple to be a good man, to be a contractor. Just do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. If you do both those things, everyone will respect you. Everyone will think, hey, you know what? You can count on him being there because he said he's going to be there. Those type things, I think, to be a good man and to be a good contractor are important. So you just leverage that and you're like, hey, guys, we're doing this for this reason. I don't try to spin it. I don't try to make it sound any better than it is. Go, guys, yes, I'm going to make some money on this. But you know what? We're gonna be a part of an organization where this isn't gonna go away. I was always concerned when I signed the paper and the wire came over from Wrench Group. Here was my concern: that some dude's gonna go out and that is gonna get drunk and drive through a freaking school zone and freaking wreck into kill every kid on the bus. We're going to lock the doors and hey, we're done. I mean, there's that in the back of every owner's head. There's this thing of catastrophic failure, and there's just a chain on the door the next day, and everything's for sale. You know, and when you start going, hey, I'm backed by $500 million now. This realization of almost, hey, I don't know that we can mess this up, kind of comes to the forefront.
Yeah.
Like this may be forever thing. And I think for the people working for you, there was literally no change. There was no change in how we operated. There was no change in how we went about business. So for them, if I hadn't said anything, I guess, I mean, the problem is if I don't say anything, guess what? They find out and then they tell, now it's a secret and it must be evil and bad. And they'll tell their own narrative. They'll make up a narrative that doesn't match the reality, of what and why we did it. And so that's the reason why I do stuff is because I'm like, hey, let me be upfront. Let me be honest. And Alan knows this too. I'm honest. I'm honest when it's not fun to be honest. And I think that's the biggest mistake we make.
A quick side story to that, Jimmy. The night before I was meeting the team at Abacus to tell them we had taken a partner on in 2012, I was pacing the floor in the middle of the night trying to get my head straight about what I was going to say. And my wife, pops her head out from under the covers and she goes, "What is wrong with you? What are you doing walking around the house at this hour of the night, 3 o'clock in the morning?" I said, I don't know what I'm going to tell the guys. Like, what am I supposed to tell the guys? I feel like I've put my kids up for adoption and they don't know, and she said, "How about the truth? Why don't you just do what you always do? Tell them the truth and tell them why you did it and how it's good for them." And I literally went in the next morning and just told them exactly what you said, Jimmy. I was very truthful. Here's what I did. Here's why I did it. Here's what the benefit is for you. And the same thing, we lost a couple of people in the first 6 months, but we were probably going to lose them anyway. So I think it's good. Jimmy, I know you have the philosophy that if you take care of your team, they'll take care of your customers and your business will thrive. Um, talk about the difference in your leadership style versus your dad's leadership style. Now, I want to preface this, Jimmie, by I always remember the story you tell about your dad being so tough on the guys and like sort of wanting to beat them with a 2x4, like it's my way or the highway. And you had a completely different philosophy. So, talk about the difference in your leadership style and your dad's leadership style, Jimmie.
Yeah, so my dad bought me a book when I was in college, like right before I was getting out when he knew I was going to come to work for him. And it was literally called Attila the Hun's Management Style. And it was basically a fear-based, it was seriously a fear-based management style. Like if somebody messes with you, chop their head off, and then everyone else will fall in line because they don't want their head chopped off. And so what was funny is, and I grew up, dad was a hard dude, man. He was no joke. And I think that was pretty prevalent in our industry. I mean, I think it was baby boomers. It was like, don't be a wuss. Like, hey, it was tough. Like, it was a tough thing. And I'll be honest, what's funny is my son, he played football in high school. I remember the coach had been coaching for 38 years or something. And the coach goes, Jimmie, I don't know what to do with these new kids. And I like, really? He goes, yeah, man, I can't go kick them in the ass and grab their face mask and shake their helmet and go, get out there, you big P. And they go out there and kill people. He goes, if I do that to these kids, they fold up like lawn chairs. I go, yes, welcome to the millennials and the Gen Zs and all that. You cannot operate with them. That you can't cuss them out. You can't do. I mean, dude, we got cussed all the time. If it was just like anything, you got cussed out, and we just expected it. Now, if you were to say, drop an F bomb on a guy, dude, he might quit you like right then and there. So there was a part of almost, it's funny. I think because my dad was so hard that I kind of swung to the opposite and I'll be honest, probably too soft at a point. And what I had to learn, and I think a lot of people do that, you either emulate your father and do exactly the way he did it, or you go, okay, hey, I'm not going to be that rough and mean. But at the end of the day, I did find that part of what he did was well is it did create discipline. Just like a drill sergeant and anybody that's ever been in the Army, Marines, whatever, there's a part of that does create some discipline. Um, I would argue against it in this sense. There's a book, 1 Minute Manager. I think is probably still one of my favorite books. It's the most simple book, but it is one of my favorite. And there's a section in there that talks about if you take a pigeon and try to get a pigeon to go through a maze, you give the pigeon a reward, and you get him to go to the reward. Then you move the reward around the corner, and then he goes around the corner, and then eventually you can get the pigeon to go all the way through to the end. Well, my dad's management style and what the old management style was let's put a electrified metal or walls into the maze. And then what happens is, see, the pigeon, and this is a real study, the pigeon gets popped, and then the pigeon gets popped, and the pigeon gets popped, and then the pigeon stays still and it does nothing. And that's when you're in trouble, because now your employee is so frozen by you not wanting to get yelled at or in trouble that they're literally not using their brain and they're not trying to get and achieve the goal. So I think that's kind of the argument against that. But mine is definitely a lot softer. But as going further forward, I did realize the need for discipline, and there does have to be the time. And I think some owners are too soft, and that happens. Are you going to fire that guy for not tucking his shirt in? And the guy, like one of my guys asked me that, and I go, "Hey, if we were a badass place to work, would we like doesn't he not want to get fired for not tucking his shirt in?" And I'll be honest, that's a really hard question. How do we create discipline in areas, especially with guys that are kind of prima donnas and hard to find? How do we create these disciplines? And I told a guy the other day, and this works every single time, if there's two guys and one looks perfect and one looks all sloppy, go to the guy that looks perfect and tell him, compliment, say, oh my God, man, look how your belt's in, your shoes are shined. Man, you look great. And then I just go, oh, hey, Alan, how are you? And I walk off. Well, Alan, if I'm saying that to Todd, Alan's going to go, hey, that's what my boss wants. And I guarantee you he's going to make an effort to be better.
Yeah,
almost every time. But if I go to him and get on to him, it doesn't always work.
Yeah, I love what you're saying, Jimmie. And one of my mentors, the way that they put it was, we're always trying to catch someone doing something wrong. Why don't we catch them doing something right? And that's what you're talking about. It's like I've noticed with my children that if I affirm their positive behavior, they do more of that. If I affirm their negative behavior, they do more of that because what they want is attention and they want affirmation of any kind. So, yeah, I think that's wonderful.
Let's move over to marketing a little bit, Jimmie. One of the things I think I've admired about you over the years is just your marketing prowess. You really understand, it seems, how to get customers, move customers towards the Baker Brothers brand. So, what marketing strategies have been most effective for Baker Brothers, do you think, Jimmie?
Well, I think like I said early on is hitting what a lot of people call it the top of the funnel and the bottom of the funnel now. And the top of the funnel meaning, okay, it's TV, radio, billboards. It's just Facebook, just getting impressions, getting your image and brand out there. One of the things is to make sure that your brand's clean. One of the things that we did, we had an ad agency that we used, and that was my instruction that I want us to look like that we're a national brand. And people thought we were for a long time. Thought, well, do y'all have these locations in other places I live? And they're like, no, we're just here. And so, one, you want to look like a national brand. Some people get a little too cute with that, and they look clean and they look cool, but they get too much on the truck. I go, I just want my logo. That's all. I want you to see my logo. And we always had a faucet or some picture on there. I go, I want the lady that doesn't want to look at a work truck to look and go, oh, what's that? And then to see our logo, and that's all I care about. My phone number, all the website stuff, that's all really secondary. Nobody, I guess if you're parked, somebody might write your phone number down off the back of the truck. But most of the time, it was about the clean, how to be clean, and then protecting the brand. Don't let the colors change. Like Coca-Cola never lets oh, I'm wearing a purple shirt. Oh, well, maybe you ought to make the logo different. No, it's always red with white every single time. So that Bubba and I got a big argument about that one time. I go, Bubba, I don't care. They're always going to want to make it white so it shows up and pops better on a black shirt. I go, that's not our logo. It's red, white, and blue, brother. And I go, so get a shirt that matches. I don't know what to tell you, but always protect the brand. The second thing is, I think I think the mistake a lot of people are making today is that they're pulling back on the production type stuff, like the direct mail pieces, the TV, radio. I mean, I'm seeing it in our market. I think it's a mistake because see, but if you let me get out in front for 2 years, I'm gonna take market share from you. See, there's a bunch of noise and there's 4 or 5 different plumbing companies on the same radio station, same TV station. Now there's only one, and I'm going to keep hammering that away. And when it breaks loose again and things kind of change here in a year or so, man, we're going to take some market share over. Sometimes people think about the money they spend today and their P&L today, and they forget about, hey, we're investing for the future. So one of the other parts, Alan, is that exact thing. Use the money and put it into marketing to invest in your future. People would at PSI were sitting around a table and they're like, "Oh man, Jimmie, how much do you take down out of your company?" I'd tell them, they go, "Oh, that's not enough." And I go, "Well, it's enough for me to live." And I said, "I don't need more than that." And one guy goes, "I go, what do you do with it?" "Well, I buy Taco Bells." "Oh, okay. Well, what do you do with it?" "Oh, well, I go and give it to my wealth manager, and he goes and invests it." I said, "Okay, so you take that dollar, so you have $1, and you give it to yourself." That became at best 65 cents to 60 cents. How long does it take Taco Bell to make it $1 again? How long does it take your wealth manager to make it $1 again? And he goes, "What?" I go, "Well, man, why would you not take the full power of the dollar, put it back into your business, and you get the full power, and your stock goes up. The one stock that you can control, which is your company, actually improves in value." I go, so that was one of the methodologies that I used to help us grow in marketing, was to reinvest those dollars back in. I would try to go do a 10% marketing budget to get to 8 because our sales increased so much. And that was kind of the strategy.
That's awesome, Jimmie. You were thinking about questions that we had written down, and you're answering them before we get to them,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Sorry.
So I'm going to throw in a bonus question in here for you. One of the things that I recognize about your logo and about Abacus, and even over at Berkey's is that it is almost nostalgic, almost. It's not quite 50s,
Mhm.
but it isn't in the era of the designs that we see today. And I think everybody recognizes that there's some really talented people doing design work out here, but it's almost gotten to the point for me that when I see one type of design, I feel like I've seen them all, to the point where it almost creates brand confusion for me. It's like, oh, there's another design that looks just like that design, that looks just like that design, that looks just like that one. And that's not the case with Abacus or with Baker Brothers. In fact, some of those designers may say that's stupid. You should totally redo it because it's so old school. But I want to just hear your thought on knowing that you have a brand, knowing that it's a little old school, looks a little bit like early 90s, and just sticking to it and going, I ain't changing this. This is it.
Yeah. Well, I think some people should rebrand because sometimes they're, they need to freshen it up. But you're right. It was funny. I just looked at one of the websites the other day. I go, oh, that's interesting. I just was being curious and going, wonder what these guys do. And I looked it up, and you're right. The biggest negative they had was it looked cool and the colors were great, but there was too much going on because before what too much going on, what that meant, Todd, was that we were going to put everything we did on the side of the truck. We do slab leaks and faucets and tubs and toilets, and we put this big list of stuff. Now what's too busy is that they got way too many stripes and way too many different colors, and they all did have the same motif, like as far as you know they had a couple that were different in their website. It was an ad agency, and I go, yeah, but they said, hey, we rebrand home service companies, and yeah, you've got so at the bottom, at the end of the day, mind share. It's all about mind share. And what you said is right. If I can't tell the difference between a brand, then I don't know the difference. And what we've proven here at Baker Brothers, and Alan's been there when we did it. When you put your brand on pay per click and you don't buy your brand, other people buy it, right? And so if you're not at the top, someone typed in Baker Brothers Plumbing and say Abacus came up at the top. Whoever's at the top, they'll click that. They'll click that company, even though they've typed in Abacus. So as well branded as we are, we still fight with that. I can't imagine a company that was like third tier branded in Dallas, like what happens to them when somebody buys their brand.
Mm.
So I'll say you have to make your brand where it looks different to the point, even maybe different bad. If you remember, there's things that you remember, like advertisements. We're hit with so many advertisements that sometimes we don't recognize the advertisement. You see an advertisement, you go, man, that was a really funny joke. And you go, well, who was it? And you can't tell what the company name was, then you failed in the advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is to get brand recognition. So even to the point of our ad agency wanted this radio beautiful guy. He sounded like an announcer, like everyone else on the radio. And I said, and now what the trend is, it's funny, our local sports station here is that they have owners get on there that sound terrible, by the way. And it actually works because you pay attention because you're like, oh, what's this guy doing on the radio?
Yeah.
So there's a part of it that you're fighting to look cool is one thing, but to fight over mind share, it's to look different, to stand out, to go, oh yeah, I remember that company.
Yeah.
That's the goal of it, not to look really awesome.
Thank you. Jimmie, your faith has been very important to you. You've not been shy about that, from building wells in Africa to supporting your church with mission work to right down to your practice of tithing. So I want to know how your faith has shaped your decision making and your leadership approach.
Well, that part's simple because it's just I think one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they do the pyramid. Like I'm at the top and everybody's below me. And I think true servant leadership is, hey, you know what, guys? I'm here to support you guys. How do I support you? So I tell my managers, I go, hey man, your job should be to support these plumbers. It should, or the AC techs and their families. And so one of the things my dad said that was early on, I think we only had like maybe 6 or 7 trucks. And dad told me, I was like over here doing math and I was showing him what we could do and how much we could make. And he goes, Jimmie, we're responsible for every single one of these people and their family. Every decision we make flows down not to just these 20 people that work for us, but the other 4 people in each one of their families. And so you're like, that's pretty heavy to go. So if Baker Brothers today, it's thousands of people that rely on the decisions you make at the top and that bleed down to the bottom. And that's just that simple thing of treat others the way you want to be treated. It's the simple thing of like, hey, if I do the right thing, even though it doesn't seem money wise right, and you do it anyway, how you win. Because you have the faith that what you're doing is the right thing, and you know that it's not guaranteed that, hey, I'm gonna make more money or anything like that. But I'll guarantee you, I've had guys come work here and they, when someone asks you if you're a Christian, when you never tell them, you never talk about going to church. You don't talk about coming to my church, but they just go, hey, where would I go to church, Jimmie, if I was going to go? That's when you start to know that, hey, what you're doing makes a difference. And it's so easy for everybody to get melded into a culture of not even like guys that aren't believers, but they just go, man, I want to be a part of this because it's good and it's clean and it's the right thing to do. And it's like they see me do stuff that they know hurts. Like I'll literally give somebody all their money back on AC unit. Just go give them all their money back because we didn't do that the right way. But when you actually stand behind, your warranties and your core values as an owner, and when you actually lose money, it costs you money to do the right thing. That's when you show everybody else. They go, okay, that's what it's all about. And I think that's kind of what, for us, it's just without coming into the office and telling you that I'm a Christian and telling you and beat you in the head with the Bible, like I'm going to do it a different way where I show a kind of love that you go, hey, why is he even doing this? I don't understand this. And if I can get them not understanding and looking and searching, then now I've won that battle. I've planted a seed that we've got guys that have came in from churches to work here before. And I go, man, if you walk into church, you're kind of 0 to 10 being a believer. You're probably sitting at a 5. You came to church, but man, we got a lot of zeros and ones here. And I'll be honest, man, there's been a lot of guys here that's changed their life coming to work here. And that's what my goal is. I hope that when someone comes to work here, even if it's only for a year or if it's only for 2, that when they leave, they go, man, that changed my life. That changed the way I perceive my industry, the way I perceive my faith, the way I perceive my family. We talk a lot in our tech meetings about being a good dad, being a good mom, being a good parent, being a good friend, and not just hey, let's make more sales. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is it's just proven out that, dude, if you do the right things, man, it pays you 10 times over, not in cash dollars, but it's just like generosity. It helps you in your heart.
Jimmie, I want to give you a little bit of praise here because we've worked together for several years now, and being in the same region in Texas, I've always had access to your numbers. And I'll tell you, Todd, many times I went to Jimmie and said, "Man, this doesn't look good. Like I don't think we're going to hit the month, or I don't think we're going to hit the year. Like we're behind at Baker. What are we going to do?" And Jimmie would always just say this one phrase: "Hide and watch, hide and watch." And he'd go and he'd pull it out, and it's quite unbelievable how often that has happened when we were facing a bad month or a bad quarter or a bad year, and Baker, Jimmie and the team managed to pull it out. So probably for another episode how he did that, but it is really unbelievable. And one thing I want to say, Jimmie, is like yourself, Abacus has had many accolades over the year, but for me, the the absolute most pleasure comes from taking these young men that have been written off by high school counselors, and some of them didn't make it all the way through high school, and watch them blossom into a fine tradesperson and a great dad and a great husband or a great wife, whatever it might be, and them buying houses and cars and send their kids to college, first generation college students. To me, that is the absolute prize that and privilege that a home service owner gets to see if he runs the company properly. So I love what you said, Jimmie, about taking pleasure from seeing people succeed. So thank you for that. Jimmie, I understand that you're in a transition phase at the moment yourself. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, about where you currently are and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I stepped down from the president of Baker Brothers, and Bubba, who we've been talking about, is stepping in. And I get, it's kind of funny. The great thing about that is I have such confidence in the team and the leadership that I'm like, hey, I always joked around and said, guys, look, my job is pretty simple. I'm like the bump when you go bowling and you put the bumpers up for your kids. I go, I'm the bumpers. I just don't let the ball go in the gutter. I go, that's it. I go, I just redirect a little bit and then go along. And literally people go, I don't even know why you're here. And then I'll redirect them. They go, oh, okay, okay. But just a little redirection, not a big one. But these guys, man, it's just when you get a team together that's so solid, it's weird to not feel like a sense of loss or control loss, or hey, I gotta control this. It's like, man, these guys have it. I told the guys at Ranch, go, man, these guys have it. And so I just said, hey guys, look, I need to, it's just a time in my life that, hey, I need to change, to do something different. And I kind of told them, I was like, hey, you can use me or not use me, whatever you want to do. I'll come into Baker one day a week and we get that done, or you can give me something else to do. I said, I'm not really looking to retire. I'm just looking to, kind of do something where I have a little more control of things. And I think that's kind of one of those things, Alan, for me. It's just been the autonomy that I've been afforded for so long, and that I've had it in control. It's hard to give it up. And that's a big reason why I did some of this stuff, because I just can't, part of it's like some guy just came in like a year ago and he's telling me what to do. That's going to be rough for me. So, but anyway, I did that, and now I'm going to go work with, one of the guys in California to do some, uh, to help them with their plumbing side, because it's an HVAC company that's
Mm.
trying plumbing, and just to help them out. So that's kind of what we're doing. So I'm looking forward to that. In fact, I'm going up there next week, so it's pretty exciting.
Very good, Jimmie. Jimmie, what is your final thoughts or words of advice for people that are looking? Maybe they're at 10 million or 15 million, but they have an aspiration to get to 100 million. What, in a couple of sentences, what would you suggest or what would you advise them to do?
Number one, sometimes I go, I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. So part of it is, do you really want to do this? I think you have to really go, do I have the ability to do that? And so one of the things that I think the biggest thing I would suggest for them is, if that's where your goal wants to be, it's kind of like eating an elephant, one bite at a time. Don't try to swallow the whole thing. Just try to improve one thing. When you learn things and you get things, go grab them and execute them. And that's one of the things Alan was great about. Alan was one of the best people at executing an idea, like something that, if you gave Alan an idea that you go, oh, it'd probably take him 6 weeks to execute this. He'd have it done in 2 weeks. He'd have the whole idea done. Complex things. The other part too is to make sure that you're constantly learning. And if it's podcasts like this, if it's Vistage, if it's Nextstar, PSI, Certain Path, these groups. The best thing I ever heard at a dinner was, it was actually a PE guy too, and he goes, "Hey, if you want to become 20 or 30% bigger next year as a company, you have to become 20% to 30% better as a CEO or a president. So you better be out constantly learning." And this is Bubba saying about sharpening the axe. He goes, man, you can keep swinging the axe all day long and never take time to sharpen it, but you're going to get less efficient at chopping down trees. You'll be able, if you take an hour to sharpen the axe ever so often, you'll be able to chop down three times as many. And it's the same thing as leaders. We have to go, man, can I not only be a good leader, I got to be a great leader myself. Now I have to teach other people how to be great leaders to be able to get to that level. That's the only way you'll do it, because you can't control every aspect yourself. You have to have these people under you that will take charge of their departments and do it in a way, the way you lay out as a visionary. Here's what we want, and here's what our expectation is, and that's what we're going to do.
Love it, Jimmie.
Yeah. Jimmie, in 6 months to maybe a year, we're gonna come back and, not now, but we're gonna unpack in a whole lesson, do you wanna wish that on your worst enemy? Alright. So, I wanna thank you for today. It's been fantastic. I've taken a whole bunch of notes. I look forward to going back and reflecting on these.
Thank you, Jimmie. I
Thanks,
want to say
guys.
thank you for
Appreciate
your
it.
friendship all these years. We've had a lot of fun together, and probably drank too many beers in bars late at night after SGI meetings. But it's always been fun.
Yeah. Well, thank you too, Alan. I appreciate that. That's probably you've been one of my closest friends in this. Thank you so much.
Hey, thanks so much for watching the show this week. Head over to toddliles.com/mindset to get the show notes. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow so you never miss a new episode of the show. And if you enjoyed this episode, then share it. It really helps us get the word out. You've been watching the $100 Million Mindset with Alan O'Neill and tiny little Todd Liles.